Okay, now just before we get him on live, just a few words from me first, and then we're going to specially introduce our special guest. Okay, so this year's Greek Independence Day commemoration at the Shrine of Remembrance felt slightly different, more emotional, more personal, and deeply meaningful. So all the medias have written. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it because I had to babysit my As Bringbank Mayor Virginia Tacho said so perfectly on the Greek Herald, she said, Greece has always stood for freedom, and that's why being here this year matters. And you could feel it. Despite the heat, despite the crowds, people stood united because this day is not just remembered, it's felt. From the powerful words of Archbishop Makarios reminding us that Eleftheria ή Thanatos is about living with dignity and truth, or the message that our diaspora are the guidance of our culture, language, and identity. This wasn't just a ceremony, this was history, legacy, and pride coming together in one moment. We heard about sacrifice, we heard about democracy, and we were reminded that the Greek story is not just Greece's story, it's Australia's story too. And tonight we continue that conversation. Joining me now is someone who was there, who experienced it firsthand, and he will take us deeper into what the day truly means. Welcome, Dean, or as I know you as Konstantinos Kalimnios. How are you? Welcome to the KK Factor.
I am well, thank you so much. And I am so happy to be at the KK Factor because, you know, my initials are KK. So
That's
it's
right.
a really good fit for me.
Και χρόνια πολλά
Thank
σου
you.
όλους.
Χρόνια πολλά για την αυριανή.
Έτσι, μπράβο. Dean, should I call you Konstantino or should I call you Dean?
You can call me whatever you want. Everyone else does. Why should it be?
Well, I did introduce you as Kyrios Konstantinos.
Papa.
Papa,
That's
okay.
not 3Ks. That's the KKK factor.
The KK
That's into some dangerous territory.
Okay, you're an Australian lawyer, a writer, a poet, and a cultural advocate of Greek descent. Does that summarize you? Because when you go and look at your name across Google or anywhere, or even look at your profile, it's like, does this man not do something? Because you're basically there and you cover basically everything. Where does all that come from?
Look, I think we're really privileged to live in a very vibrant and diverse community, our Greek Community of Melbourne, which covers an inexhaustible amount of facets. And I'm really fascinated by that. And I've spent a lot of time exploring those facets, what it is to be Greek, what it is to be a Greek in Australia. What does that mean? Does it have to mean something? And I think that's a conversation that is ongoing, ever developing, and I don't think it will ever end.
Dean, when I read a lot of your posts, they are meaningful. There's a lot of pathos in there.
So.
Well, there's a lot of pathos in there. And you just literally, if you're going to look at your post, you have to sit down, grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee and read.
Yeah.
Because you do read with a lot of pathos. How do you fit it in as being also a lawyer? How do you fit everything in?
Okay.
And this is
really
also going to be part of, I'm sorry I'm interrupting. This is also kind of like a mentoring the young that look at you and say, I'd like to be like Dean.
Oh, good. Please, if any of you are watching and it's way past your bedtime, do not be like me. You have been warned. Don't listen to Fiarula. Do not become like me. Apart from that, look, it's Facebook opens up all these avenues. Online allows conversations with people that you wouldn't otherwise come across. It's like a big virtual cafenio. And what do we like doing more than anything else in the world as Greeks? Talking, exchanging ideas, arguing, testing propositions, working things out. Sometimes na βγάζουμε το άχτι μας. That's okay. That happens as well. But it's a really absorbing thing. And I often say to people, imagine if we were mainstream Aussies. Yeah.
What define the word mainstream?
Mainstream Aussies means people in our specific condition, people of non-ethnic origin, like your dominant Anglo class. I mean, our lives are peppered by our festivals, our parades, our traditions, our plays, our this, our that. If you're a mainstream Joe Blow, apart from the footy and your local shopping centre, what do you got? We are so privileged to be who we are, living within our community at this time. And I think we should all make the most of it.
I think in that line, I think a lot of Australians do admire the culture and the background of the Greeks, the
That's because they
Italians,
don't
and the
know us very
Europeans.
well.
Or is that?
That's because they don't know us very well. Although we've got some amazing Anglo Aussies who are part of our community here.
They
You
are.
get people like Jim Clavin, the historian, who's present everywhere.
That's right.
There's a lady called Carol Fraser who writes poetry in Greek, and she's an Aussie. You get Karen Gauchi who writes books about Greece. There's a lot of them.
Yes, I had her live on my show,
Yeah, they're
and
part of our community.
Shelley Dark again. I'll be actually
Shelley Dark, yeah.
I'll be
I
catching up with her
presented
in
a
a
book
couple of
last year at the Hellenic Museum. I mean, these are people who belong to our community because our community embraces everyone. We're open to everyone. That's the great dynamic about it. It's for all.
You know, my partner always says this. He goes, "There's two types of Greeks:
Yeah.
those that are Greek and those that want to be Greek."
Those that want to be Greek. And then I say that there's the third one, the ones that thank God they're not. But that depends on your experience.
Look, exactly, because you've got it with all
Yeah.
cultures. You've got your good, your bad. It doesn't really matter.
No.
But look, the Greek community is very prominent, especially in Melbourne. It's prominent in Sydney, and we are a very multicultural country. And look, for me personally, I was born here, I was raised here. I've only gone to Greece a handful of times, yet I've got a huge family in Greece.
Yeah.
But for me, this is my country because this is where predominantly I've lived and been raised most of the time. I haven't been to Greece that often. But now, as an older person, when I do go to Greece, there's so much that I do embrace and I understand. Because when I speak to people from here that do go to Greece regularly and do liaise with Greece, whether it's work related or bringing the two cultures together, it's now that I'm learning a lot more. And I guess that's also because of the fact being part of the Greek community of Melbourne and going to the festivals and getting introduced to people, like you said, the non-Greeks that, are bringing the Greek history to light. And then when I've got them on live, I'm learning so much more through them as well. And look, I still think this is the lucky country. And I've had cousins who've come here for the very, very first time, and they absolutely loved Australia for what it was, and for what it is, because we've spent time to show them our culture here, the way we work and live. It is very different to Europe.
See, my experience with my Greek cousins is different because when they come here, and then the automatic reaction is back in the day, take them to Lonsdale Street. And then later on, take them to Oakley. And they're saying, yeah, well, if we wanted to see that, we would have stayed in Athens.
Exactly.
We want to see something Australian.
Exactly.
So they got a completely different take. But our subconscious desire is to say, look, we're just as Greek as you, or look what we've retained. But they're not really interested in that. They want to discover something new. And the thing that you find about a lot of Greeks in Greece is when you speak to them in Greek and they say, Καλά, γιατί μιλάς ελληνικά, αφού φύγατε. And you think, hang on, we've done this thing over 100 years where we've tried to preserve our language, our traditions, our identity.
Over 3,500.
Instead of getting the pat on the back, they think that it's useless and they don't understand why we do it, which leads me to what you were saying before about what's our country. For me, my country, η πατρίδα μου, is the Greek community of Melbourne. That's my patρίδα. And specifically the Greeks of Moonee Valley in Essendon, because my grandfather settled there in the 1950s. And I grew up Roulé Nahoryo, where everyone around me was either from my dad's village in Samos or my mum's village from Yanina.
Τι ωραία. Γιάννηνας με πάνω από την Ήπειρο.
I wrote a play about it a couple of years ago, Opouliske Patris, which toured Greece, which is about that. It was about, the bush telegraph. You couldn't go out in the street without someone knowing that and reporting it down the line. We would hear news about people living in the next street from Greece because the news would travel to Greece, to Χωριό, and they'd call us είδες τι έγινε.
No.
So that's how I grew up. It was a very, if you like, close-knit, enjoyable entity which gave you a sense of belonging. And that all fell apart in the late 90s, early 2000s.
For what reason?
When I was growing up, for me it was beautiful and I'm very nostalgic. That's my patρίδα. I drive past those streets now because I take my kids to school in that area. And I say, αυτό ήταν το σπίτι της θείας, she's dead. Αυτό ήταν το σπίτι του θείου, he's dead. They're all gone. it's a whole geography. Then makes me nostalgic, but it makes me think, God, that thing is just so precious, and what we've got now is so precious. We should do everything we can to preserve it.
I absolutely agree with you. And with our language, we need to preserve the language. It's so important. I mean, I can remember when my children were babies and, at school, we're wondering what language are they going to learn? Yes, they were going to learn Greek to maintain their heritage, to be able to talk to the Yambapu. But language has become even more important now. And with the Greek language, I'm seeing a lot of non-Greeks, a lot of Australian friends of mine that want to learn Greek. And it's not because they like this show and they like the music. I've got a lot of Greeks
I've heard a lot of people say good things about the music on this show. So there you go.
Thank you. But yeah, it's really beautiful to have an audience listen to this show, go on the live chat and ask the live chat family that are on there every week, what's that about and what's that about and what was that word? But they love the music and they want to learn.
The music drags a lot of people in. See, my wife is Assyrian, and she left Iraq during the war and stayed a bit in Turkey and then came as a refugee to Greece. And one thing that we don't really realise here in Melbourne is that there are a lot of communities of people who speak Greek who are not Greek. So there are Assyrians, there are Armenians, there are Arabs who were in Greece as refugees who learnt the language, Pakistanis that have come here and still speak Greek. And I keep on running into them randomly. Now I say to my wife, well, what's your and your community's massive thing about being Greek? And they say, because in Greece, it was the first time ever in our lives where we felt free.
Wow.
They were a persecuted Christian minority, come to a country with similar culture, and they're free. And you see them flocking to the festivals. They're always at Antipodes. They have an unhealthy fascination with Fakanaki, which I can't understand, but that's their business. I respect it. No comment. But they love everything Greek because it reminds them. You said it before when you were quoting from that news article from the Greek Herald and from Virginia Tachos. Freedom. Being Greek is all about freedom. And look, these are people who are not Greek. They came into our history, our paths crossed relatively late, yet they equate Greece with freedom. How special is that?
It is very, very special. And look, not all are positive, give us positive feedback. Like I've come across from people that have come from Greece to Australia for the first time and all they say is, you guys don't know how to live. And it's like, hang on a minute, hang on. You can't quote that. You can't quote that. No, because you know how I see it, Dan? I'll show you how I see it. I see it this way. Why did you come to Australia? Did you not come here because you wanted to work? Yes.
No.
So then you've come here because we give you opportunities here to do something that you're not able to do at this point in time in your life in Greece. So don't say the Xernazi.
So you take it from that position.
Yeah, I'm taking it from that angle. We work here. Yes, we work hard. And if we want to party, we'll party hard. But our climate's very different to Greece and Europe. So we can't have festivals and parties right through summer every day. It's a different climate.
It sucks. We migrated to the wrong part of Australia, I feel. We should have been in Perth or somewhere drier. Where you have the Mediterranean climate where you can do that, because at the end of the day, do we live to work or work to live?
Both. It depends. It depends what you want in life.
The Protestant work ethic, which is working for work's sake, no, I don't like that. And I often say to my parents for a joke, I said, Kala, you came here, so we don't have to, and yet we're working hard too. That sucks. Obviously, if you look at it from a success-failure criteria, we failed. Because the whole idea was you were supposed to work so that we can bludge, and it hasn't happened.
No, I don't agree with that. I don't. I look at it as in when I become a pensioner, and unfortunately my parents may not be around at that time. At least, if my parents have worked so hard, at least I will have something rather than just living off a pension.
Okay.
And my kids.
Everything requires a sacrifice. Yeah?
That's exactly right.
So when you come to this country, you gain, well, up until now, that things may change, financial security, but you don't have the beautiful things that Greece does. But it's a choice.
But it's a choice, and people can work as hard as they want to make whatever they want, depending on what they want out of life. Because I know a few people that may not have materialistic things, but they make enough to travel to Greece and come back and forth every year and enjoy both those.
Ultimately, that's a choice that you make.
That's right. Others will say, well, I don't want to be traveling every year to Greece because I want this for these reasons.
Fair
And when I
enough.
can travel, I will travel. It depends on how people want to live their life. Everyone has choices. I totally
Absolutely.
agree.
But I think what you're trying to say is don't diss Australia because Australia gives you great things. And I think
Yes.
I agree with you.
Thank
Australia does give you great things. One thing it gives you is government funding for festivals. Yeah.
you.
And to fix the toilet of the Silovo. And it funds our Greek schools because let's face it, if we didn't get government funding per student for the Greek schools, they wouldn't be financially viable. They're not. So Australia's multicultural policy is absolutely unbelievable. It's keeping us alive.
That's
It
exactly
really
right.
is.
And this is
Yeah.
why I say it is a lucky country for many, many people, especially those that have migrated for a better life and took advantage of what Australia had to offer, because not everyone took advantage.
But then
They
again, you see
worked hard.
people from Greece migrated from a relatively poorer country to a richer country. I was saying, my wife, born in Iraq, she says the lifestyle they had in Iraq was a very wealthy country. They had a great life. They didn't work hard. They had that work-life balance that we don't have here. They
Wow.
actually they came here because of the war. One thing Australia doesn't have is people killing each other, which you have in Iraq. But had it not been for that, they still would have been quite happy staying where we are.
Beautiful. That's right.
So
Well, look, you know what?
everyone's different. Whereas in Greece, you had wars back in the day, you had poverty. We all have that story of poverty in our background. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
That's
My
exactly,
mum tells the tale of it being Easter and there was no food in the house. And then there was a knock on the door, postman. You got this postal order from Theo in America, and they were able to buy food for Easter. That's
wow.
imprinted in my brain. So,
Wow.
yeah, and these are the things which I think drive us when we're arguing in the Silla War about why did you spend $5 more a kilo on the potatoes, or you know what I mean? Mikain Safto, don't spend money on this. It all comes back to that basic insecurity that we have inherited because our people had a very hard time.
That is so true.
And I think trauma's inherited. I don't know how long it will take for that to work its way out. I think probably my kids' generation won't have that, but we do. We still have it.
We do. We
Yeah.
do. And the stories that our parents tell us, we tell them to our children, it's like, huh?
They can't, they don't understand what that
No,
means. But
they
we
don't.
do because we remember, for example, sitting in the house in suburban Melbourne with all the lights turned off,
That's right.
so it's different.
It is so different. Okay, now on a positive note,
Yes.
Australia is still a lucky country, and my father is a huge advocate when it comes to people migrating to Australia and taking the opportunity and embracing Australia. My dad says this is his home now
Great.
because of everything that Australia gave him, but
Okay.
he worked hard, he embraced what he could embrace and succeeded, and then obviously can now support his children and advocate and tell us if you work, if you achieve things, if you go for your passions and do what you love and continue in your journey, you too will succeed in life. Never
Right.
put down the country that you're living in. Like
Great.
what I said, don't, what is it, the hand that feeds you?
Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
That's right.
Not don't sniff the hand that feeds you. I think it's don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Don't bite. Okay, because we beat off, but I really loved having this chat with you. It's great sometimes to have my guests on there and we talk about things that we weren't going to talk about, and that
Yes, that always happens with me. I'm always going off on
I love
tangents.
it. I love it. Thank you. Okay, let's touch on the Independence Day, 25th of March. Tell us in your words how you experienced
Okay.
Sunday.
Well, 2 minutes before we were on the kickoff, and we were right up the front as Epirotes because they were going to honour the Epirotic contribution to the Epanastasi. Two out of the three members of the Filiki Eteria that founded the revolutionary movement were Epirotes. It was financed by Epirotes, so we were up the front. My daughter collapsed because of the heat.
Oh,
The poor
similar.
girl was waiting there for an hour and a half, waiting for the head honchos across at the shrine to finish their speeches. And they got there late, and then they were supposed to adhere to a strict 2 minute speech, and they were going on for hours. And then all the old ladies were waiting, and then all the kids were waiting, and then people just started feigning left, right, and centre. I had to send two of the old ladies that were with us home because they were sweating and palpitating. I thought, we can't have this. Our insurance doesn't cover this. Grabbed my daughter, pushed her to the side. Lucky she had the foresight. This is why kids these days are much cleverer than we are. She collapses right in front of the paramedics
Terrible.
bus thing there. So that was okay. They looked after her. grabbed her zaqueta, marched past the dignitaries. I don't know who they were. We weren't paying attention. And was within 5 minutes. It was great. And as we were walking up to see what was going on, we were running into all the other people who fainted as well. And the point of that is sometimes these things happen. It's unfortunate. Yeah. Everyone was there bearing the heat for a reason. I mean, we had 80-year-old Grioules wearing the Epirus costume, which is really hot, really heavy.
But hang on, you were dressed as a tsolya.
I was dressed as an Epiroti, not as a tsolya. Difference.
But weren't you wearing the pom-pom shoes?
But it's a different type of fustanella. It's a whole body fustanella. It's not just a separate detachable skirt. And this is the whole body thing.
I'm going to ask you a personal question. Do you get really hot in those costumes?
I don't, because like Prince Andrew, I don't sweat.
Look, you got to hand it to the young ones, especially the young ones. They're bearing the heat.
That's the point.
Dean,
they're dedicated. They love it.
Yes, we had Antipodes Festival, and how hot is it? Yet they will get up on those stages and they will dance with pathos.
Yeah. And the question is why? Because they feel it. They feel they belong to something bigger.
I love it.
It means something to them.
Yes.
Until they hit the deck because it's too hot. But even then, there was one girl who was at the shrine at that little ceremony that was happening just for the dignitaries, and she fell there. And then they picked her up and they said, we'll go and have a rest. She said, no. She got up and then she went and joined the actual parade. That's how dedicated she was.
Wow.
So there's something about, as you said in your introduction, bringing people together, feeling the importance of community, the importance of what that's about. You know, it's if you reflect on what happened, it's an amazing thing, Rula, because here's a group of people that are persecuted, downtrodden for 400 years, treated as second-class citizens, no rights. And then one day they just get up and say, no, we're not going to take this anymore. They changed the world, and they changed it in many ways. First of all, the idea that a whole new nation based on a people's race and culture can be created rather than under a king or under an empire, that was us. For the first time ever, that a country could be organized along cultural and ethnic lines. We changed the world, and then that caused all the other nationalisms in the Balkans and the other liberation movements, and they all copied what they did on us, and we gave hope to people.
That's right. And we still do.
We still do. That in itself is one of the most amazing things that could happen. We changed the world. We forced the world powers to listen. Yes, they set up Greece to fail by imposing ridiculous conditions, which meant that Greece went bankrupt how many times, but that idea that no one could stop us. No one wanted Greece to be independent. We made it happen. I think that's an achievement that no one historically will ever be able to take away.
It's a story of resilience and strength, and it's a story that should be taught in easier terms, though, because we don't live in those eras, but at the same time, we need to learn to be resilient.
Well, I'll tell you something, two things on that. One, the Greek Revolution could not have happened without the apodimi, the Greeks living abroad, because they were the ones that got the money together for this to happen. They're the ones that did all the organization outside of Greece. And then the first leader who came when Greece was liberated was also from Apodimos Egnas from Russia, Kapodistrias. So when they look at us and they say, oh, you guys have left, you're irrelevant, some people do. We're not. We're very much a part of what goes on, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many generations we're here, our heart still beats blue and white. And there are contributions that we can make. I mean, we showed it historically, 1821, case in point.
Wow. Alex says it's the same in the 1900s in Thraki.
Yep.
Yes. And he also said that our ancestors strive to be Greeks. Yeah, a lot of the people are very loving what you're saying. I don't speak Greek very well, but I have kept my heritage. So it's very
good. Absolutely. Why not? There's no one right or wrong way of being Greek. It's how you feel and how you express yourself. And you've got all the opportunity here in Melbourne to explore all the different facets of being Greek, whether it's music, sport, art, arguing on Facebook, going on chat shows online, whatever you want. The world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want.
That's exactly right. Now, I'm going to take you back to Sunday.
Yep.
And I want you to tell me what was one of the highlights for you, other than all the people passing out from the heat. What was one of the highlights that you can take away and go, wow, that was really great?
Okay. One of the highlights is that I always meet up with people at the march that I don't see throughout the year. I
Isn't
only
it
see them at
wonderful?
the march. They're my march buddies.
Isn't it
And I
wonderful?
always run into them, and I'm always really happy to do that and catch up on that special day. That's one of the highlights. The fact that it brings people together, in
Yeah.
ways that no other thing can. What I would change is I would prefer the march not to be tucked away in the middle of nowhere where no one can see it apart from us. I'd like to bring it back to the city like it was when we were kids, where
On,
you start on Swanson Street.
yes, on
Ideally, I would love to start at the State Library, opposite the station, where people are coming off and they can watch you. And it's open to the mainstream, and you make your way down to Federation Square, and you can have your little ceremony and speeches and whatever there. So it becomes something public. In New York, it's in the main thoroughfare. In Chicago, it's the same.
But the shrine to me represents. Look, I know it's not the same, but for me, okay, it's for someone who doesn't go to Greece all the time and all that sort of stuff. If I see the Parthenon and someone says, "Oh, have you got a Parthenon in Australia?" I can say, "Well, there's a few places around that we do have things that remind us of Greece."
The library looks like a Parthenon.
But to me, it's the shrine is the same thing. It's a war memorial place, and I respect it for that. And that's why, to me, when I see everyone marching there and then lighting the fire and everything, that's to me Federation Square. And with all due respect, Federation Square to me is go there and let's have a big party. Let's bring the two sister cities there. Let's have a festival. Yes.
Yep.
But when I look at Independence Day,
you like the solemnity of the shrine.
Yeah, it's that respect, the remembrance, the people that fell for us. It's the same for, when we got Anzac Day here.
I'll tell you why I disagree. I'll tell you why I disagree, because I used to think like you. Now I don't think like you. Only in this. Everything else I'm guided by your judgment. First of all, the shrine does not belong to us, and the trustees of the shrine have made that very clear. The trustees of the shrine place ridiculous burdens on us in terms of how we're going to behave, what we're going to do. First of all, we are not allowed to talk about independence at the shrine. Did you know
Why?
this? I know this because I'm in the committee of the organising of the Parelasi. They want to vet everyone's speeches before they're made. We are not allowed to make speeches in Greek. We are only allowed to talk about Greek-Australian friendship and Greeks and Australians who fought together in World War I or II.
Is there a reason why?
Yes, because the Shrine trustees believe that the War Memorial is only about honouring Australian soldiers and other allied nations who fought with Australia during the wars in which Australia fought. It's got nothing to do with Greek independence. They are not interested in Greek independence. After 2019, with the unfortunate incidents that took place, which caused us to be banned from the Shrine, the whole ball game has changed.
Wow.
So we are not in control of that place. It doesn't belong to us. It's got nothing to do with us. We built ourselves a Greek war memorial around the corner, okay? And then the whole rationale is that we march past that. But really, what's the point of marching when there's no one to look at you? We march for ourselves. We're part of a broader community. You were talking about Australia and what it's done for us and how we're multicultural. How multicultural are we when we're having a march on the side of the shrine, because we're not allowed to march to the shrine anymore, that only other Greek people look at because there's no one else around?
Do you think, Dean, that, look, some people might turn around and say, well, it's not all about the Greeks and you're not the only race here in Australia. Do you think they're looking at the bigger picture?
Quite frankly, I don't care what they're looking at. The fact of the matter is, up until now, we were allowed to march there, and that's great. Now we're not allowed to march there. And then the question is, when they make ridiculous claims, they were asking for the Greek ambassador's speech so that they can approve it before he said it.
Wow.
And that caused problems. It almost caused a diplomatic incident. You don't go and ask the ambassador for his speech. Yeah? And
because
they were telling him what to say. Do not talk about independence. You're going to talk about this. Well, under those conditions, thank you very much. I don't want to be at the shrine.
Yeah, that to me is not right.
For you, that symbolises the Parthenon. For me, it doesn't.
I understand.
The library looks like a Parthenon. Every single building out there, which is classically inspired, looks like a Parthenon. And the Parthenon is something else. This is a war memorial that was built. a copy of a Greek building or Greek-inspired building, the Mausoleum of Halikarnassos, which was the tomb to a king in Asia Minor, who, by the way, was not Greek. He was Lycian, was a different race of people living across the water, so not even the Greek building, okay, to honour their war dead. They've made that clear, their war dead, and our war dead only in as far as we fought with them. There weren't any Australians at the 1821 revolution, so they're not interested.
See, I find it really ironic because with the shrine, and we're there for Anzac Day, the Anzacs fought for the Greeks in World War II.
No, they fought for the British because the British told them to.
But they came to Greece and they
Yeah,
fought
they
for
did.
Greece. And
No,
I
they
learned all through
fought
that.
British in Greece.
The Anzacs, the Greeks, because I went and saw I've lost my word now. I went and saw the movie that they put together. There's a
Documentary.
documentary. Thank you.
Yeah, Jim Clayton's documentary, which is
Yes.
fantastic.
See,
Yeah.
I've learnt a lot from watching these and reading those sort of books and
Yeah.
speaking to people like Jim, because I'm the eldest in the family, and my dad didn't sit and talk to me about the war like with his
No.
daughter. So I've learnt more now, and because I've got an interest, or because when I travel I might stumble across a monument
Absolutely.
that has been built there from an Australian to the Greeks, and we got one in Perth,
Yeah.
the church, and it's like, well, why did the Australians build this? And I read the history, and then there's this sense of pride. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and they're happy. They're happy to celebrate that, insofar as it involves them. But anything which doesn't involve them, these are the shrine trustees, just the shrine trustees specifically. They're not interested. But what had happened in the old days was Bruce Ruxton, who you probably remember, crusty old guy from the RSL that used to go on TV. He loved the Greeks because of what the Greeks did for Australian soldiers in World War II. So it was against a lot of protest that he had his way and allowed us to march in the shrine. But we didn't always march at the shrine. Before the shrine, we used to march in different areas. My father, as a kid, because my father came here in the 50s, remembers marching around the swimming pool. So we've got this thing in our head that the march has to be connected with the shrine. That's actually historically not true. It has been connected with the shrine. It's a great backdrop for taking photos. But that was just something that happened because some very nice Australians thought that they could do us a favour. We should be lighting candles to their memory. But but we took it for granted and we lost it. And it's not likely that we're ever going to have it back.
It's very disappointing. Very disappointing.
Well, look, at that time, you remember what happened? Chrysiavyi was in foray. There was a lot of hot blood about the Prespes agreement being signed, and certain people thought that they could be political at a place which does not belong to us.
Wow.
Yeah? It belongs to them, and we disrespected it. So they barred us from being there, and they're doing us, in their mind, a favour by letting us have a little ceremony that no one in the Parikia can attend except the special people, yeah? And while we're waiting in the heat for them to finish, where the shrine controls what they're going to say.
Oh, no, that's shocking. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that's why I have a problem with it, Tarula.
That's fine. And I'm glad that you did say it, because I would never learn this,
Yeah.
and nor would our audience. But again, as Dean has said, this has got nothing to do with the broader Australian community. This has got to do with the committee that runs the shrine, those sort of people. Because
Yeah.
I don't want people to think, because the Australians and the Greeks, we all get along.
No, but it's not about that. They're custodians of a place which is a war memorial,
Yeah.
and they're very conscious of the fact of how it's going to be used. And it's true, no one else does what we do there.
Well, no one else does what we do even for the Antipodes Festival. Let's face it.
No one can pull off a festival the way we do.
No. Sorry to all my Italian friends. Okay. While you were speaking about all that, my mind went across to when I was in France last year, because this is my second time in France. I love France. And I was down at Marseille, and then I went to an island, and there was a little mini Parthenon. And I'm like, wow. And even though it was my second time in France, I didn't know until this time round, when I did a little bit more research, that the Greeks occupied France.
Absolutely.
South,
Not
before the Romans came in, and then
not occupy, colonized. So Marseille was a Greek colony, and Pythias, who then went to travel to Iceland and discovered Iceland, Greek discovered Iceland for the first time. Pythias, the navigator, He set off from Marseille.
Wow.
Nice, you know Nice. You would have been to Nice. Everyone
Yes.
goes to Nice. Yeah, Nice is the French name
It's
for
beautiful.
Nicaea.
Oh, that I didn't know.
It's called Nicaea.
Wow.
Agvi, where all the nudists go. I wouldn't know that. I'm just saying it.
I don't go there, so I wouldn't know it
You
either.
know, we wouldn't know anything about this. But Agvi, all of the towns in southern Italy, southern France,
Southern
were
France.
Greek colonies.
Amazing, isn't it?
And all the way down to Spain as well. Barcelona was a Greek colony. Valencia was a Greek colony. So that's just the
Unless I
nature.
travel in the countries, I won't know because I don't have time to research something. I'm researching things that.
No. See, I'm a really annoying travel companion. I went with my wife to Europe, and we were going through France.
Well, I'm glad that you went with your wife to Europe.
And Italy. And no, she wasn't glad because every 2 seconds was, but this was Greek. This was Greek. Look, that's Greek. Like, can you stop it, please? You're embarrassing me. And then we were in England. She goes, well, look, you can't say anything. Look at that church. That's Greek. So, yeah, she can't escape it. Yeah, but it's true what you're saying. We've left our footprint everywhere, and it's visible. It's fantastic. It's a source of pride. And you always run into Greeks wherever you go in Europe anyway.
I just wish that we were educated in a different way. Like for me, my dad would watch all these war movies. Well, I'm not going to want to watch these war movies, and then you went to school. But then we didn't even learn really who really had the lands in Australia, let alone, Greece and Australia had this relationship during the war.
Okay.
Things need to be educated in a way, I believe, that it'll interest that person, whether being a female
That is
or male.
why, Lula, it's so great to have the Greek community. The Greek Community of Melbourne organises every Thursday lectures on culture and history.
Yes, they do
And
a
people
lot of
discuss
things.
these topics, yeah? And
They
there's
do.
online lectures, and they bring some of the best academics from overseas. And you
And
can
they
see them on
teach
YouTube.
ancient Greek.
Yeah, teaching ancient Greek. So there are opportunities to learn all this stuff that you're talking about here in Melbourne. And sometimes Greeks from Greece say to me, how do you people over there in Melbourne, in the people on the arse end of the world, as Keating used to say, how do you know all this stuff? Because we've got a great community with people who are dedicated to furthering that knowledge for people like Dr. Nick Dallas from the Greek community does amazing work. Yeah.
He does. I tell people, and even when I've been on the stages at Antipodes, that we want the young to be part of it and join the committee of the Greek Community of Melbourne, so they are our voices, so they get to have the opportunities to find out what the Greek Centre give us and what the Greek community put together. And it's not just Antipodes Festival, it's not just the film festival. There's so much happening.
Well, there is so much more. For me, for example, my 3 kids, they go to Greek school at the Greek community, so I'm there every Saturday. Twice a year, I give lectures for the Greek community, so I'm involved in that. When I wrote a play, Greek community sponsored it and helped in the production. There is nothing that won't do. Like if you've got a good idea, they will always
back you.
your idea and see if they can make it happen. It's brilliant, but it's an interactive thing. You will get out of it as much as you put in. I think
that I can say firsthand.
Yeah.
For someone that I embraced more the Greek community when I got onto the radio, and I had opportunities to meet different people that really interest me of who they were, what they stood for, what they would tell me, what I'm going to learn from them. And I've learned so much more than me prior to being on Greek radio. That opened up different doors for me because my interests were elsewhere.
It's really enriching. I've got this Loxa, I Love Karagosi. And we created with the Greek community Greek school the Karagosi better there. We're doing Karagosi plays for the kids. It was fantastic. The world is your oyster. So people who are watching, who haven't fallen asleep by the sound of my voice, get yourself involved.
And now you've got some books, current books, and you've also got is it a film?
No, I don't have a film.
Okay, I misread that one. But I know.
No, I wrote the script of a film. That's what happened ages ago. I did that, but I wrote a play. I write books, so poetry books, short story, all in Greek. The reason why I choose to write in Greek is because I think that Greek is a literary language here in Australia. So we shouldn't only write in English. You're talking about preserving the language. So I think, well, how do you preserve the language? One of the ways is to write literature in that language.
That's right.
Means that you don't have a massive market of readers, and lately the books are being published in Greece. I've got a Greek publisher and they get flogged off there. I bring a few here, just whatever.
Να ξέρουν και τι κάνουμε κι εμείς εδώ πέρα στην Αυστραλία.
Να ξέρουν καμιά φορά, γιατί εμείς ανθρώποι είμαστε, δεν είμαστε. And it's all part of that, showing that you can be a part of Greece within our little Greece here. And it's just as good, if not better, than what's going on over there.
And Dean, just before we wrap up, you're also practicing currently as a lawyer.
I am, for my sins, I am a lawyer. People don't believe this, but I am.
And what's your specialty?
My specialty is getting people out of trouble and standing up for what's right.
Dean, on that note, thank you so much for joining us live here on RPPFM, the KK Factor, the Greek Eurobeat Show.
It's been a real privilege and a pleasure. Thank you.
Look, it's been a long time in the making,
Absolutely.
and thank you so much. I really enjoyed listening to you because, again, I've learned so much from you, and I truly appreciate it. And I hope we have you on as regularly as we can.
Protafels, all the best and congratulations on the great show. I'm a massive fan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that was the awesome Konstantinos Kalimnios,